Okay, so let's look at plausible deniability. Plausible deniability is the ability of people, typically senior officials in a formal or informal chain of command, to deny knowledge of or responsibility for actions committed by or on behalf of members of their organizational hierarchy. They may do so because of a lack or absence of evidence. So basically, since they couldn't, there was no way that they could prove that they did know or that they could do something about it, they could then, just say that they didn't know because you don't have any evidence to say otherwise, right? Okay. They may do so because of the lack or absence of evidence that can confirm their participation, even if they were personally involved in it, or at least willfully ignorant of the actions, right? And of course, willfully ignorant in law, willful blindness is when a person seeks to avoid civil or criminal liability for a wrongful act by intentionally keeping themselves unaware of facts that would render them liable or implicated. Basically, looking the other way of the actions. If illegal or otherwise disreputable and unpopular activities become public, high-ranking officials may deny any awareness of such acts to insulate themselves and then allow them the ability to shift blame onto the agents who carried out the acts, as they are confident that their doubters will be unable to prove otherwise. The lack of evidence to the contrary ostensibly makes the deniable plausible credible, but sometimes it makes any accusations only unactionable. So that's where you pretty much get a situation where everyone knows that they're guilty, but they don't have the evidence to convict them, right? It's like, what are you going to do? You can't prove it, right? And this is the United States, we're a court of law, and you can't do shit unless you prove it. That's why the mob, kills fucking witnesses and destroys evidence and all that stuff. Same thing, okay? The term typically implies forethought, okay? Such as intentionally setting up the conditions for the plausible avoidance of responsibility for one's future actions or knowledge. Now, I would like to reference in what I was just reading, but since you're not aware of it, I'm not going to mix it up. Because once, the first time, the second time, the third time, where, you can just look the other way, you get comfortable, and then you can start being strategic about it. You can plan ahead, and then that's where the corruption comes in, the under the table dealings come in, you know what I'm saying? Private parties, and be like, hey, well, they're not going to be able to try me anyways, so do whatever you want to do. I'll just look the other way and, just make sure that you make your donations to my campaign. I'm up for re-election in a couple years. Or, I got this business, this other business, and I'm trying to do this project, and I know that you're, you own some of this land over there. Maybe, you can lease it out to me, or maybe sell it to me for cheap. And, we can just work out a deal, scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's pretty much how politics works. And, of course, businesses is directly related to politics. And, of course, next to that, which is probably, if you got the 3 points of the triangle, right, those are probably the 2 points on the bottom. The top point is probably your financiers, the banks, the money, right? They're at the top because they will directly control the governments of which they're financing, right? Or what they can change their interest rates, or how they can affect their bonds, right? And all of that, their inflation, and of course all the businesses that they own too, which can definitely affect them, right? And then of course they own the newspapers, they own they can make life difficult, obviously, because they own everything, mostly everything. Then you got the businesses, right, that they're either in partnership with, in close relations with, or they got stakes, they got stocks in them, you know what I'm saying? Or they outright own them, or they got family members that own them, or they got friends that own them, right? It's all connected. It's probably a small circle up there, because when they say the top 1%, or the top 1/10 of 1%, it really starts to get smaller. And just like they got the magazine of the Forbes 400, right? Guaranteed everyone on that 400 list knows everyone else that's on that 400 list, and probably every other 1,000 people below that list. As you get to the top, you obviously don't care about the lower, but when you're on the lower, you definitely care about the top. So, and if they don't know you personally, then they know of you, or they know of the business that you work for, because they probably got dealings with each other. Anyways, back to this. Unactionable. Can't do shit about it, unless you can prove it. And that is possible, but you would either have to violate privacy laws, and especially violate privacy laws on public officers, in a public capacity, which is generally, a super no-no. On a private person, they really can't do shit, but if you do it to a public, they got pull and they can make your life living hell, right? Or they enact laws that requires oversight, right? Which is what I think is lacking here. I gotta give the state of Hawaii, some credit that they're taking the initiative to, put out on the record that they need a lot of work and stuff. But it don't matter what laws they put in place or what rules they put in place, if they don't have anyone to watch them and make sure that they're doing it right, and then to enforce those laws, or to enforce the liabilities of not doing what they're supposed to do. I think I read over there the other day that actually it was just on Facebook. Someone had their own private news thing, and of course someone had a fundraiser, and they're supposed to report it, right? Because the public's supposed to know, when the fundraiser is, what it's for, who's attending, part of the, oversight and accountability, right? And she didn't, right? So this was, behind the scenes. The public didn't know, and of course she reported on this and reported it to the government and let them know that this was taking place. And you know what they did? You know what her penalty was? $1,000. She had to pay $1,000, and that was it. I don't even think that counts as a smack on the wrist, because that fundraiser she probably raised, I think, pretty low. I think from what they're expecting, still shameful, but it was 60,000, right? To pocket change. It's you laugh at that. It's what incentive is there for any of these politicians or public officials or public servants to adhere to the law if the punishment is laughable, right? You know what I'm saying? No reprimand, no public reprimand, embarrassment kind of thing, not even stripping their title or suspending them for an X amount of time. It's just, it just paid $1,000. And of course, they didn't even make that a public record. I think she had to look that up to find out that there was actually, that she had to pay a fine, right? So it's that just goes to show that, I think that the government wants to make this appearance that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is, priority number one is what's in the best interest of the people, right? Well, I guess technically it'd be that what's in the best interest for the entity or organization or government that which they are working for, or that they are representing, right? But then, of course, then it's that organization, entity, whatever, is supposed to be for the people and in the best interest of the people. And to go even further than that rabbit hole, it's what people, because they might be serving the best interest of their people, right? That's in their club, they're wealthy, you know what I'm saying? Right? And then maybe that's not best interest of the other people. Like they don't really, it's kind of vague, what, who they're actually representing. I mean, none of us even, even identifies ourselves as being one of the people, right? Like in the preamble of the Constitution, we the people, yet all of our laws, all of our codes, HRSs, it identifies the person, all of our ID requirements, everything is on the person. You are this person, that person. So, and actually, the only people that really on the record publicly announces that they are one of the people are the officials in their official capacity, the government capacity, like legislators. Just, what I'm saying, they're saying that we are the people elected by the people. Actually, just a tidbit out there. But yeah, anyways, let's go back. So the term typically implies forethought, right? Preconscious planning prior to, such as intentional setting up the conditions for the plausible avoidance of responsibility for one's future actions or knowledge. In some organizations, legal doctrines such as command responsibility exist to hold major parties responsible for the actions of subordinates who are involved in actions and nullify any legal protection that their denial of involvement would carry. What? Let's look that up. And, oh, yes, I will, promise. In the practice of international law, command responsibility, also the Yamashita Standard, the Medina Standard, superior responsibility, is the legal doctrine of hierarchy accountability for war crimes. Oh, damn, they're close to home on that one. Whereby a commanding officer, military or superior officer, civil, is legally responsible for the war crimes and the crimes against humanity committed by his subordinates. Thus, a commanding officer always is accountable for the acts of commissions and the acts of omissions of his soldiers. Now, isn't technically the president the commanding officer of the United States of America? And then also, isn't the governor technically considered the commanding officer? He is executive, right? And then it goes down, right, to your counties, right? And then it goes down to your cities. So that would have to be fact checked. Anyways, commanding officer is always accountable for the acts of commissions and the acts of omissions of his soldiers, just like businesses. Managers, supervisors, they're responsible for their staff. Staff fucks up, that means they fucked up. There's no such thing as a bad crew. There's only bad leaders. G.I. Jane. In the late 19th century, the legal doctrine of command responsibility was codified in the Hague Conventions of 1899. What a peculiar time that was. And 1907, which are partly based upon the Leeward Code. Can't decide where you at. General Orders number 100, 24 April 1863, military law that legally allowed the Union Army to fight in the regular and the irregular modes of warfare deployed by the Confederacy during the American Civil War. As international law, the legal doctrine and the term command responsibility were applied and used in the Leipzig Ward crime trials, 1921, that included the trial of Captain Emil Muller for prisoner abuse committed by soldiers during the First World War. Okay, let's go forward. This is all military, though. I don't see any application, historical, art of war. Oh shit, damn. Okay. Yeah, this is military references, though. Damn, they need to. Whoa. Here we go. Hold on. Superior responsibility. Concerning the superior responsibility inherent in civilian control of the military, civil, and military jurists. No. Universal jurisdiction. here we go, maybe. Codification. The additional Protocol 1, AP 1, 1977, to the Geneva Conventions of 1949 was the first comprehensive codification of the legal doctrine of command responsibility. And the additional Protocol number 1, the terms of Article 86, subsection 2, explicitly address the knowledge factor of command responsibility and stipulate that the fact that a breach of conventions or of this protocol was committed by a subordinate does not absolve his superiors from responsibility if they knew or had information which should have enabled them to conclude in the circumstances at the time that he was committing or about to commit such a breach, and if they did not take all feasible measures within their power to prevent or repress the breach. Again, though, therefore, in execution of military operations, Article 86, subsection 2, obligates a commanding officer to prevent and, where necessary, to suppress and report to competent authorities any violation of the Geneva Conventions and of Additional Protocol 1. Now, technically, actually, because I'm talking about the state of Hawaii here, and since technically the Hawaiian Kingdom is under military occupation by the United States of America, then that means the government is actually a military government, right? Under military law, and all of these officers operating in the public capacity are actually military officers. So, technically, this is applicable to them. Technically. Well, sort of. I think officially they would actually have to convert from the current established government occupation, which is, it's a belief system, right? Because they've told this lie for a very long time, right? And very repeatedly. It's like a blatant lie right there in the HRS. As soon as you open it up, it starts talking about they get the powers from the Republic of Hawaii. You look at the Republic of Hawaii, and guess what? It was the fraudulent occupying government after the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom, which has no legal, lawful authority except for the fact that they did it by force. And that they had the United States military backing them. Anyways, in discussions of command responsibility, the term command is defined as in de jure. What's that mean? Important, very important. In law and government, de jure, Latin. De jure, pronounced de jure, lit by law, describes practices that are legally recognized, regardless of whether the practice exists in reality. Whoa. In contrast, de facto, in fact, describes situations that exist in reality, even if not legally recognized. So, what you have here is the Republic of Hawaii was de facto, Hawaiian Kingdom was de jure, right? Because they got the legal recognition by the international community. Anyways, let's not get off topic. Okay, so military and civilian. The determining factor is hierarchical subordination. What does that mean, right? Dude, that's just for clarification. What does that mean? Look up. Let's see, hierarchical organization. Let's get specific. And hierarchical subordination. Sure, it's the only one that actually says those words. So, ontological equality and hierarchical subordination. Limited, commonly in almost all feminist writings, it is the apparent inability to reconcile the complementary concepts of ontological equality. What are we reading here? What does this even mean? Is this relevant? An ontological argument is a philosophical argument made from an ontological basis that is advanced in support of the existence of God. Such arguments tend to refer to the state of being or existing. More specifically, ontological arguments are commonly conceived a priori in regard to the organization of the universe, whereby if such organizational structure is true, God must exist. That sounds pretty convincing. Okay, concepts of ontological equality and hierarchical subordination. Briefly, if two things are regarded as ontologically equal, then by definition, one cannot be subordinate to the other. Thus, it is ceaselessly argued, because a wife is the ontological equal of her husband, therefore it follows she cannot legitimately be subordinate to him, and any assertion of the subordination of a wife to a husband is regarded as an implicit denial of their ontological equality. The concepts of ontological equality and hierarchical subordination are not logically mutually exclusive, and the combination is found everywhere around us. But the possibility of the combination is hotly denied by every feminist writer I have come across. It is odd and it cries out for explanation, like an inability to rub one's tummy and scratch one's head at the same time. Okay, so this does not look like it's going to answer our question. So let's go back to the first one. Okay, hierarchical organization or hierarchical, okay, is an organizational structure where every entity in the organization, except one, is subordinate to a single other entity. This arrangement is a form of a hierarchy. In an organization, the hierarchy usually consists of a singular group of power at the top with subsequent levels of power beneath them. This is the dominant mode of organization among large organizations. Most corporations, governments, criminal enterprises, and organized religions are hierarchical organizations with different levels of management, power, or authority. For example, the broad top-level overview of the general organization of the Catholic Church consists of the Pope, then the cardinals, then the archbishops, and so on. Members of the hierarchical organization structure chiefly communicate with their immediate superior and with their immediate subordinates. Structuring organizations in this way is useful partly because it can reduce the communication overhead by limiting information flow. Okay. I think we got that. Okay, let's go back here. So, in de jure, legal command, military, civilian, and determining factor is hierarchical subordination, not the rank of the commanding officer. What? In de jure, legal command, military and civil, the determining factor is hierarchical subordination, not the rank of the commanding. Right, okay, so basically what they're saying is that it's not the title, right? So it's not the president that's, directly responsible for the actions of his other executive branches, right? In the military, in a de jure standpoint, it is the hierarchical subordination, right? So if it was, for instance, the governor, right? It is the governor's responsibility to oversee his cabinet, right? His branch or his direct executive agencies, right? Down the chain of command, right? And above the chain of command. So that's where the hierarchical subordination comes into play, right? So it kind of stops, right? For instance, that example that they said, they got the Pope, the deacons, right? So you got the Pope, then the cardinals, and the archbishops, and so on. Okay, so for the actions of the archbishops, right, it would be directly responsible of the cardinals. It would be their responsibility, for their oversight over the archbishops, and then of course, vice versa. Now, if the cardinals fucked up, then the Pope would be responsible. If that makes sense, I think that makes sense. Maybe I could be wrong. There are 4 structures of command authority. 1, policy command, heads of state, high-rank government officials, and monarchs. Sounds like state of Hawaii and Hawaiian Kingdom. Strategic command, the war cabinet and the joint chiefs of staff, executive branch. Okay. 3, operational command, military leadership in the field, active warfare, the Yamashita standard established that a commanding officer cannot cede operational command to a subordinate officer. That operational commanders must fully exercise the potential of their authority to prevent the commission of war crimes. Neither failure to supervise subordinates nor ambiguous orders exculpate the commander. The fuck? To clear from alleged fault or guilt. Nor ambiguous orders exculpate the commander. Okay? 4. Tactical command. Direct command of troops on the ground. NCOs, non-coms. International law developed 2 types of de jure commanders. Prisoners of war, POW camp commanders, with the application of ICTY established that the commander of the POW camps is entrusted with the welfare of every prisoner and that the cognition of subordination is irrelevant. 2. Executive commanders, the supreme governing authority of a territory under military occupation. That sounds familiar again. Subordination is again irrelevant. The commanding officer is responsible for the welfare of the civilian populace under his military occupation, as established in the High Command trial, in the hostages trial at Nuremberg. So technically, the provisional government of the Hawaiian Kingdom were the executive commanders. And then when they made the Republic of Hawaii, they inherited the command as executive commanders. And then when the United States annexed them, claimed them as a territory, all of a sudden you had a confusion take place. Because now, the executive commander kind of has just been fired, doesn't have this job anymore, because technically that would make the president of the United States of America, Washington, D.C., the executive commander. But of course, if the executive commander of the United States of America believed that this was all legit, that the Hawaiian Kingdom really did, want to be a part of the United States, right? Because, of course, he was, the rest of the United States and the world was guaranteed, sold the lie by that newspaper group that one dude bought out, the Honolulu Advertiser, but it was named something else before that. Anyways, getting off topic. Subordination is again irrelevant. Okay, 3. In de facto, which is now the state we're in now. Factual command. The effective technical control of soldiers in the field is the determining factor, not the rank of the commanding officer. I guess it's not really. Or, it depends. It's like you got perhaps military officers that went into their dressing rooms and then changed into civilian clothes but are still acting in executive capacity. This circumstance of de facto command authority requires the existence of the formal superior/subordinate relationship. You know what I find very peculiar is that in all of the courts in the mainland United States, and this is supposed to be looked at like badly, right? When they fly that American flag, they fly that flag with a golden fringe around it. And technically, symbolically, that means that the Republic of the United States has been captured, right, by the federal or the corporate United States. You got the United States of America, and then the Republic, and then you got the United States corporation. Look at the United States Code on what United States means. Clear as day. But here in Hawaii, they fly the flag without the yellow gold fringe, right? So it kind of peculiar. It's almost like the federal government really doesn't have control, and they're telling you that they don't have control, but they still want you to believe that they have control, but they know legally, because they have to act in law, right? What they actually do behind the scenes. They know what they're doing. All of this information is not new to any of the people at the top, to any of the state actors here at the top, to any of the United States legislature. They can look up the record themselves. Anything we're bringing to them, they're just taking advantage of the fact that we don't know. Knowledge is power, right? They don't have to act on that information if they're not, if the people don't know about it, right? So they're just going with the flow. Shit, if they're gonna let us have the power and take all this fucking money and land, shit, by all means. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's willful. It's like voluntary. Of course, and it's like actually a gold mine, because half the people here are true blood Americans who they're not trying to give up anything, right? Or to disown their American alleged American claim, United States claim and stuff. Then of course you have the Hawaiians, who's also got mixed feelings too, right? Because they got the reasons about they're gonna get slaughtered by other nations if they didn't. Doubtful. Anyways, like I said, and so there's like this confusion, because then you got even these, it's kind of contradictory, because if you want to be American, right? If you want to really, own that and really want to claim that you're diehard American and you stand for what America means and what it believes, which is freedom. And if you choose plausible deniability and act like that there wasn't some fucked up shit that happened here 100 years ago, 150 years ago, right? And want to act like, everything is legit, even though as being presented with the evidence, it's fucked up, then you should have a moral responsibility to correct that wrong, and if you can't do it yourself, then you need to get in contact with your representatives, so-called, people that's representing America, right, that you elected and stuff, and hold them accountable. Because if not, then you're consenting to enslavement, to infringement of their rights, right? You throw out the whole Constitution and everything that it stands for. You tear. Honestly, the Hawaiians should be like creating their own word for word replica Declaration of Independence to the United States, except they don't have to, because they're already independent from them as nationally, internationally recognized. But still, same points. You should probably just change the title to the motherfucker, right? And you should be helping them do that. There has to be a way. There has to be a middle ground to where you guys can give them back what's rightfully theirs, and then work out an agreement to where, you can still stay here, still keep your property. It's just going to be under a private contract between two nations, as opposed to a private contract between the supposed state government, which is more better, right? Because think about it. You're basically contracting with the county, who has to contract with the state, who has to contract with the federal United States, right? So you got all these taxes in between. You got all these people that's collecting, their pieces, what I'm saying? All this middleman, right? When you could just X all that shit, right? If you're going to be a part of the United States and you want to do dealings commercially with another country, you just go straight to the fucking source. And then you can do what they did before, where they have these, treaty agreements to where you can not impose taxes, or work out some agreements to where it's beneficial, monetarily to both parties, where you exchange goods and stuff, right? I know that's a major complaint from my research. I know that is a major complaint of businesses in Hawaii, that there is, that's the whole reason why they got all these, what do you call that? What do you call those middle people that speak to the government officials? the middle ground people, you know what I'm saying? I can't think of, anyways, you know what I'm talking about, right? That's what, lobbyists, that's what it is. That's why you got all these lobbyists, right? That's why you got all these conventions, you got all this plans set up, right, to control the the government, the political government, the legislature, the judicial, the executive, so that they don't make things difficult for you to conduct business, right? How much do you have to pay them to do that? How many favors do you have to pay them to get them to do what you want, no questions asked, right? And of course, as time goes on, and as there more pressure and more attention is being put onto those, because it's being done fraudulently, right? Like, it's not being done legally, you know what I'm saying? It's not being done openly, right? So it's just a matter of time before they're going to get caught. And then that means you're going to get caught, which means that all the work and effort that you put in, right, you're either going to watch all of your friends suffer, and it's just going to be a matter of time before all you guys start taking each other out. Or, you know what I'm saying, if we move this along and just do what's right, the faster we move that future process along, the faster we can just look away from what happened in the past, even if it was something that you did yesterday, right? Because, they really don't fucking care. That's one thing about the Hawaiians. They don't give, they know they all doing some dirty ass shit. They don't give a fuck. They're about peace, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? But they also ain't no bitches, They know their rights. They know what happened, right? And the only thing you guys had going for you is the fact that they're doing this peacefully. However, man, if I could pull up this quote, that might be on my iPad. Oh, right here. No. Damn. Man, wish I had it. Yeah, never mind. That sucks. It was like a perfect quote. Anyways, I lost my train of thought. If you give them the power of the knowledge, which is what I'm trying to do, you know what I'm saying? If I can figure out what knowledge I could provide for them, and then the means to use that knowledge and to hold them accountable, because really all we got to do is this guy right here, my nigga Flores, that I was just doing my research on. He's doing the right motherfucking thing. For real. This Leeward Planning Commission right here. 3 months ago, this happened, right? And of course, I need to rewatch this because I want to watch the expression on her face specifically. And that's going to tell me if, she knew already that this was the case. This is just now the first time that it's been publicly presented to her. So now she kind of has to do something about it, right? And where's the oversight on this shit? But him, right here. You know what I'm saying? Got my notes right here. Where you at? Kalani Flores of Waimea. He went up there. Him, one of 3 people. That's it. 3 people. And that is probably the busiest they've seen. On average, they probably get 0 to none. I noticed that in Nevada. I noticed that here. Whenever they got these public committees, it's all over YouTube. It's all on the internet. No one shows up to this shit. For real. Like, I'm guilty too. I don't show up. I'm going to start showing up though, for real. It's just, I don't even know which one to show up to. So I'm just doing my research. But if everyone does what he did, because the only thing that he did is he looked at his neighborhood in Waimea. He saw this planning shit that was going on next to Parker Ranch and some residential homes. He looked at the plan that is on record, that's on the website, and then he looked at what they were doing, right? And then he looked at what laws were governing what they were allowed to do, and started seeing some inconsistencies, right? Let's hit the key points. I took notes. I didn't make that close it though. Right, what did he say? Okay. He basically said that in the general plan, 14.3.6.2, Courses of action. Quote, the County and Planning Commission establishes controls of orderly development and minimize